Hey, hello, my name's Ryan. I hope everybody's having a great day. Uh, I am sitting here in a atmospheric river in Southern California up on a hillside. And I wanted to talk about staying dry when you're camping out. This could be camping. This could be because you're homeless or you're going to Yosemite or whatever. I've slept outside more nights than most. I've slept indoors under a roof twice in the last 12 something years. So this is pretty normal for me. It's not anything that gets me all hot and bothered. I'm actually super warm and dry and cozy, comfortable. And here's how. I don't particularly enjoy tents. I prefer hammocks, and there's a bunch of reasons for it. One being that if something breaks or rips, I don't have to replace my whole setup. I replace that part. I've got straps, I've got the hammock, I've got an underquilt, which is like a sleeping bag for the bottom of your hammock, and then I've got a sleeping bag style blanket, and then tarps. And I actually have one tarp that I really consider my tarp, and then I've got two cheap tarps that I bought here from Home Depot that are brown that I stash. And while even Home Depot tarps aren't cheap anymore because of inflation, they're cheap enough that if somebody finds where I hid them and steals them, it's not the end of the world. But I'm gonna carry my Eno tarp with me. It costs more. It's smaller. It's a better tarp overall. Although right now it's leaking a little bit. I think I need to retape the seam that runs across the roof line, the center line of it. Just because a tarp looks like it's waterproof doesn't mean it is. And so you really, before you end up in something like this, you need to check and make sure your tarp's waterproof. And if not, tape seams and seal it with whatever you got to seal it with. Because you can get hypothermia when it's above freezing if you're soaking wet. And it certainly isn't any fun. So I have like my regular tarp, which is for my hammock, and it handles 99% of the nights that I spend outside. But there's certainly a few nights a year, a few days a year where we get, and I'm not always here in LA, but I'll be somewhere where a big storm rolls in and rain starts blowing sideways. I call it blow in, but you can get, you can see behind me, it's wide open. And if the wind is blowing from behind me and there's a bunch of water in the air, I'm gonna get a little moist. So that's the downside. There are ways to mitigate that. There's tarps that are specifically built to mitigate that, or you can just get different tarps or more tarps and adjust how you tie them up and hang them. Hypothetically, I could have this pretty well sealed up to where there'd only be a little space on the ground, but I don't mind it like this. It's fine. The real heavy rain and the windiest weather is going to be during the day, so I'm going to be awake and notice if I'm starting to get a little wet, and I can adjust things. Or take my hammock down for a little bit if I have to. I got a little stool I can sit on and wait until the worst of it's over, and then just rehang the hammock. It keeps you off the ground. If I was in a tent right now, the tent would be wet all the way around, except for maybe the floor. But the outside would be certainly wet, and then you're supposed to stuff it in the same bag. And it's just more of a mess. it has its upsides. There's nice things about tents, but there's downsides to tents too, I think. And I've slept in a hammock, mostly Enos, an Eno setup for a long time, and it's just worked out really well. They're real easy to set up. You can set your tarp up. If it's already raining, you set the tarp up first. Then, underneath the tarp, you get in your bag, and you get your hammock straps. You put your hammock straps up, and then you hang your hammock under a tarp. Never gets wet. It shouldn't. One thing you do have to think about with the rain and tarps, though, is that water will catch when you're using tree straps, which are instead of using a rope to tie to a tree, you use a wider, like, webbing. And that's to put less pressure in a small area on the bark of the tree, so there's less damage to the tree. The thing is, that flat surface will catch water, and water will run down that strap. So you got to pay attention, especially if you're going to get heavy rain like this atmospheric river right now. You've got to put a curve in your strap, so when you clip it on, you can see, there we go, you can see it. Should be able to see it now. Sorry, I'm hanging in a hammock and try not to get wet, but you curve it. See, it's got a twist in it. And so if any water starts to come down from the very top to where it's still exposed to the rain, it's going to hit that curve and have a place to run off towards the ground instead of keep running down towards them. And then you also need to put drip lines. You can see I hung the bottom of the strap and I put it back through one of the notches in the strap that you clip your hammock onto, depending on, so you get the right elevation, right hang for it. I re-ran the strap through it to use as a drip line. So if water is coming down, it can catch onto that strap and then go down the strap instead of continuing on down to the hammock. I also use my the leftover ties for the tarp, and I run those through one of the slots for the hammock. So there's 2 drip lines on each side and a twist and the hammock strap. And under 99.99% of the circumstances, that'll prevent water from running down and getting the top of your hammock wet, which, isn't the end of the world if it's just a little wet up here. But if it continues and you don't fix the problem, it can end up just coming on down, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's awful cold wet in this hammock. And that's no fun. I've had it happen. So you definitely want to avoid that. I also have an umbrella, vortex, or whatever, for the higher winds. Get them at REI. They cost extra, a little extra. But if you're living outside, you're not buying like lots and lots of stuff like someone living in a house. You don't need that much. You really should have as little as possible. You got to carry it and drag it around with you everywhere. But if you do need something like an umbrella, get a decent one. Your $10 umbrella from Target isn't going to last through a storm, let alone a couple of months or 6 months, like this one can. I know it's an extra like $50, but what's the cost of being wet and miserable? Sometimes, it could be for days, could be for the next 4 days straight. Going to Starbucks with a covered in a trash bag and like still soaking wet and all your stuff wet, and it just doesn't work. And that's it's the difference between having a decent life out here and having a miserable one. is knowing what you need, having the hustle and the discipline to get stuff, to get decent gear so you can survive the conditions you're in and not be absolutely miserable and a pain in the butt for everybody around you. When I do go down the hill, when it stops raining and it's time for me to go back into town, I'm gonna probably be a little stinkier, but I can walk in, I'll be fine. Not, oh, the world's crashing, which a lot of homeless people are gonna be like that in a couple of days if they're not already there. So pay attention, make good choices, and hustle. Get what you need. Life's hard enough with what you need, let alone without it. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit all the buttons. Make a comment. Ask me a question. Make a suggestion. Thanks for tuning in. God bless.